So I'll be making this video as advice for language learning to the analytical learner, and this is response to a couple of YouTube videos that I've viewed recently. The first one is called the 20-hour theory by Josh Kaufman. I found this theory very interesting to interpret. He claims in a speech, and I'll leave a link to the video in the description, that you can learn anything, including a language, in 20 hours, and I'd like to dispute that, because language learning is a mixture of a lot of different skills all rolled into one, and you can't do 20 hours and expect to be proficient in everything. So I'm going to start off by saying that the first point he made was that you need to deconstruct the skill. Wholeheartedly agree. Analytical learners love to deconstruct things, pull things apart, how they work, what their functions are, etc. The next one is learn enough to self-correct, and I think this is very applicable to language learning. And the third one is practice. Now, how is this relevant? Okay, relevance means that you can deconstruct your learning style in order to target specific items that you feel are most important or most beneficial to you. And I will give a couple of my own personal ones in a moment, but you don't necessarily have to agree with them, it's just a fact. And what I've come up with is a theory that you're going to take 80 to 100 hours to become relatively proficient in all the language skill, if you target them specifically, after you've already done an introductory or beginner course. Because I've noticed there's YouTube polyglots and language enthusiasts, they're mostly geared towards expanding on their own languages rather than starting from scratch and show that on YouTube. So okay, so you have to start off with, what would you like to do when you want to finish your learning? Would you like to speak, listen, read, or write? Or you can do all of them if you really want to. But in addition, on a whole, I reckon listening is mostly an auxiliary task, because it reinforces the sounds in your mind, and when you're speaking, you're reading, and you're writing, it reinforces that and plays, well, for me anyway, it plays a type of audio. If I listen to it enough, I start repeating things in my head, and I start emphasizing that, and when I see it in speech or read it or write it, it comes back a bit more easier. So here we have the breakdown. So speaking, you need to be able to pronounce words, and you need to be able to recall words and patterns, and that's essentially it. Listening, you need to be able to interpret words in contexts, so that means you need to be able to recall words, and you need to be able to recognize words. Well, actually, you don't need to recall words, you just need to recognize them in context, so it's a very passive process. Reading is also very passive. You're recognizing in context. You're not remembering, you're recognizing. You only remember really if you have good short-term memory, you close up the page, or you summarize what you do, and that's where writing comes in. So writing is recall. If you're writing a journal or you're writing a summary, you are recalling words and phrases and patterns that are applying to that specific item of interest that you are doing. So, what we can gain from this is that the most common parts is grammar, words, recall, recognize, and context. Okay, and from my own personal experience and from what I've been watching online, YouTubers and that production and correction trumps recognition and interpretation. Not to say that recognition and interpretation is not valid, it's just a much slower process than producing your own sentences, speaking them with other people, having the other people correct them for you, listening to other people speak in natural conversation. But yeah, so don't get worried if you're a bit shy or you don't want to talk to people, because you can simulate this type of experience for yourself if you really want to target that. But what I also notice is that where most people seem to fall over with the beginning stages, because the final stage seems pretty straightforward, the beginning stages is where they all seem to fall down, because the grammar is seemingly always shunned, and the word count, as you can see, 250, 7,000, 700, 1,500, 5,000, 10,000, 20,000. But you shouldn't be worried about the word count as much, because it's cumulative. That means after you learn the first 1,500, then it becomes easier and easier to pick up the 5,000, the 10,000, the 20,000 with regular practice, and it won't take you as long as you did to get to the 1500. You'll generally get to the 10,000, 20,000 quite quickly, quite rapidly after you get to the initial stages, because 1500 words is a general consensus for what the polyglot community call common, so that makes up about 75% of vocabulary anyway, between 1500 and 5000 words. Now, the other problem that I found that people have when they begin is orientation and direction. People are very, there are some people that don't like to set their own courses. They don't like to set their own steps ahead. They like to have things given to them, how they step. And a major problem with this is that they go for generally accepted courses and course books and phrase books that are on the market these days. And as Alex Alguera has said in some of his videos, that generally there's not as substantive content as there used to be in language learning. And I've got a few books here. The older versions are found very useful, or much more useful actually, with grammar translations and things like that than the newer ones. I've got a Vietnamese one that was quite basic, I think, or from what I can see so far. I haven't actually started that, but yeah, so I think that I agree with this 20-hour theory here, and I'll link another video. It's called Hyperpolyglot Emmanuel Marini, Speaking in 15 Languages. And I've looked up his methods of learning, and his methods are that he reads the grammar, he learns the grammar, and then when he goes to the country, he starts to fill in the grammar with the blanks of the words. So, generally speaking, that's learning enough to self-correct. He's self-correcting himself when he learns the new words, because the words essentially out of context they represent things and ideas, but without grammar they generally can't be put together. And I've noticed that there's some people also that claim, because any type of these skills you can probably develop in isolation of each other, but there's some people that claim that reading is the way to go, reading and listening is just the way to go, or speaking is the only way to go, or writing even is the only way to go. I think that you do need a balance, and as I said before, any type of recall and correction will really reinforce your language learning. Yeah, so that's about it then. Good luck with your language studies. I hope this helped. If it didn't help, please let me know. Thank you. Bye.